My name is Leslie Sgro. I am currently president of the Springfield Park Board. A little bit about myself. My background is I got my undergraduate degree at Northwestern in history and political science, and I got my master's in business at Washington University. I have most recently worked in the state budget office, and before that I was at the Department of Natural Resources for 8 years. I have been president of the Springfield Park Board for 24 years, which has really been just for me a labor of love. A few months ago I asked myself the same question, why 4 more years? And really the answer I came up with resoundingly is that we are in a time of change at the district. We have a new executive director. We have a brand new financial director. We have an HR director that we're hoping to hire in the next 6 to 8 months. We just completed a long-range plan. The long-range plan includes some critical elements for the district. It includes things like upgraded technology, improved facilities, reviews of programming and additional programming so that we better meet the needs of the community and customer service. I think these are all critical elements for the district. I am excited about the future. We have had a history of partnerships and grants and working with the community and being responsive, and I think that shows in what we've done. You look at Southwind Park and Dreamland Park and Centennial Park. We've really, a new ice rink. We've really done a lot, but the future is so exciting. I mean, we have a lot to do. Build on those partnerships, really talk to people, see what they would like for the community. We now have paddleball because a gentleman in the community came forward and said to us, I'd like to donate some money for a paddleball court. And we said, that's a great idea. Those are the kinds of things that get me excited and ready for the future. So it's a combination of things. I want to build on previous successes and continue doing things for the community, and I want to make the district even stronger than it is today. We have a great long-range plan, and I think that it's going to be an exciting 4 years. So I'm really hoping to have the opportunity to do this for 4 more years, and I have been humbled and honored to be able to do it for the last 24.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Robin Schmidt, and I'm currently a Park Board trustee. I've not been on the Park Board for 24 years, but I have been on for 2 years. I was elected in the spring of 2013, and I was very honored to be elected by the public at that time to stand up for our parks. I ran for Park Board then, and I'm running for Park Board president now because I care very much about our community and about our parks and about our recreational opportunities in Springfield. By way of background, my husband John and I have a 12-year-old son. We've been married for 13 years. We're very active at his school. And I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois in Champaign. I'm also a graduate of the SIU School of Law. I'm a practicing attorney. I work as a hearing representative and prosecutor for the state of Illinois, and also an administrative law judge. I decided to run for Park Board president because it has become very clear to me in my time on the Park Board that we do need to make some serious changes, both in our leadership and in the way that we're looking at the long-term financial future and vision of the district. It's one thing to be proud of our new parks that we have in our district. And some of those new parks are going to be fantastic assets to the city of Springfield and to the people of Springfield. But the issue is that when you expand the park district or any district to that extent, you have to know where your funding sources are going to come from in the future. I think what's happened, unfortunately, with our park district is that we've now found ourselves with quite a bit of negative cash balance that we'll have to be paying off these new parks for years and years to come in the future. And unfortunately, that's at the detriment of our aging facilities like the Nelson Center, like the Henson Robinson Zoo, like Eisenhower Pool, like neighborhood parks, when I'm out talking to people in Indian Hills, Geedle Park, Enos Park, Gehrman Park. We have so many parks that are already here that we can't forget about, that those have to be taken care of also. That's also an important part of the fabric in our community and what people are using and the memories that they're making with their families. As Park Board President, I would insist upon a facility by facility and park by park, including our police department, analysis of each and every single one of these in terms of a long-term financial plan. I would also prioritize improvements to our existing facilities and also repurposing of our existing facilities. Pickleball is a good example of that. We have a court at Isles Court that was repurposed for this group. This is a group now of 150 strong members. And I would like to see more activities like that in the future. And with some of our aging, we have a lot of aging and unused tennis courts that are out there in the community that could be used for something that is new, it's fresh, and that's what people are looking to do. And that's really what we're there for, to provide those recreational opportunities to the public. Third, I would focus on openness and transparency. I think part of the reason that the Park District finds itself in the financial situation that it is in right now is because there hasn't been an appropriate check and balance and openness. One of the first things that we need to do, and that I would do as Park Board President, is insist that we somehow record our meetings and have them available to the public on our website. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Would you like to talk about anything?
Yeah, if I might. The long-range plan that we just, as a board, implemented includes an emphasis on facilities. I think all the trustees would like to do that. Some of the things that Robin mentioned, for example, at Enos Park, we, within the last several years, invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 into Enos Park. We totally redid the lighting, we redid the pathways, we built that beautiful brick entryway. At Gehrman Park, we had a Kaboom project. Now that was almost entirely donated, and we had over 100 volunteers show up. And we totally re-landscaped it, put in new playground equipment, which was donated. We painted, I actually helped paint the shed building in that park. At Eisenhower Park, we had a donation to totally redo those baseball fields, and we had a Kaboom project to build the playground system. At Dreamland Park, just recently, we put in brand new lightings, new pathways, and we put in a bathroom which had been requested by the residents. At Kiwanis Park, we recently totally redid the soccer fields at Kiwanis Park because the international soccer group needed a slightly different structure of the soccer field, because for international play, it's slightly different. We totally redid that. We could go on and on. We have absolutely, at Nelson Center, the second sheet of ice. We recently put in a warming facility because when we originally built it, the heating element made the rink very cold. So we redid that, and we redid the ceiling just recently. My point is, we redid the bridge at Lincoln Park. We totally dredged out that lagoon. We redid that beautiful old stone bridge. I think that, I mean, I just could go on and on. We recently did the botanical gardens, right? We got a grant, a $375,000 grant, museum grant, to totally update the heating and cooling systems at the botanical gardens, and we put in new pathways. And in fact, just today, we got the money back from the state. It's a reimbursable, 100% reimbursable grant. Coming up in the near future, we have a brand new bridge going in at Washington Park, actually two, so at the upper and the lower lagoons. It's something we've been working on. It's 85% federal funds passed through the Department of Transportation. So I believe we'll be receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 million. As far as the financial condition of the district, we are currently on track to end end this fiscal year with $1 million more in the bank than we anticipated.
What did you anticipate?
We anticipated approximately 2.2 million. We're going to end the fiscal year somewhere around 3.2 or 3.3. That is, look, every municipality in the state, including the state, went through some hard fiscal times during the recession, and we weren't immune to that. But we tightened our belt and tightened our operations like any family would do, and we made it work. And we are now in a stronger position financially than we've been in years. Negative cash balances are simply bookkeeping. It just means that, you know, when times got tough, we looked to other parts of the district to fund what we needed to fund. But we made every payment, we kept all our commitments, and we will continue to do so. We have paid down our negative cash balances every single year for this will be the third year in a row, to the point where we've asked our staff to do a 5-year plan where they will be eliminated. My thought is, from looking at our financials, is that it will be possible to pay those down even more quickly than that.
Wait a minute, you've got negative cash balances, but you've got 2.3 million in the bank.
Yes, we actually,
It doesn't add up.
right. So we actually have, it's a net balance situation. We actually have something like $5 million, but if you account for the negative cash balances, the actual amount is somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million. I have it right here for you.
Property tax?
Yes, we are funded partially through property taxes. We are also funded through fees and other, when people pay for golf. We are also funded, we do get grants to help fund the district. And when we apply for those, which we've been tremendously successful over the past 5 years.
And what is your property tax revenue each year?
We get approximately, our rate is 4.45, which is, by the way, the single lowest rate of any park district in central Illinois. And I believe our total budget is operating budget is $13 million. And about 65% of that is from taxes. So that would make it, somewhere around $8 million.
I think our tax levy is actually about 11.2 million.
So the additional million that you didn't anticipate having is from what?
Well, what caused that to happen? We had a couple of things happen. Our operating budget, by the way, is $13 million. So a couple of things happened. We got a huge rebate from our TIF district. We got approximately, in the Park South district, we got some additional funding from that. We also got approximately, and I'm trying to remember the exact amount, but it was over $500,000 from a rebate on our, I believe it's our workman's comp, from our workman's comp carrier, plus our tightening our belts.
Robin, it sounds like you're not satisfied with how that's going.
No, there's actually a couple specific things in that I can address if that's the format that you prefer. First, I'd like to address the issue with this payout on the workers' comp. This was one of the strangest things I've seen yet in our financial situation with the Park District, and really points to just how confusing our budget is, how hard it's been for the board to understand the budget, and how hard it has been for us to express it to the public, quite frankly. And that's why, in my time on the board, we had an auditor give an absolutely scathing, and I know, Mr. Reynolds, I know that you covered that for the SJR, but an absolutely scathing audit talking about how bad the financial practices and bookkeeping of the district were. And that's made it all the harder for board members to understand, and for us to explain that.
In October, I'm sorry, Robin, in October of this year, we got a new audit done. That audit, that gentleman sat in our boardroom and said to you and to me This was the fastest turnaround he had ever seen any municipality on any audit. We did get a difficult audit. We did every single thing in that audit, and our last audit in October was absolutely clean. There were no findings.
Well, I'm proud to say that in my time on the board that there have been improvements to our bookkeeping process. And I'm very happy that we went with a new auditor who came back and said, hey, you guys are doing a better job. We also instituted an audit committee.
Which
We
I serve
instituted
on.
a whistleblower policy.
Yep.
And there are many good things that have happened in the 2 years that I've been on the board. However, if you want to take credit for good things that are happening, you also have to be willing to take responsibility for the bad things that have happened over the years.
Well, look, I will
but-
tell you that we did have challenges. Well, I don't know that any municipality gets away without challenges. But I'm very proud of the fact that the minute we find those challenges, we address them. And I think the last audit we had from our auditor is proof of that. I mean, he sat in the boardroom and said, wow, you guys have done an amazing job. Did we have challenges? Yes, we did. Did we fix them when we found them? Immediately.
Okay, well, a couple things, because I really didn't have an opportunity there to
I'm sorry.
address some of
Go
the
ahead.
issues that were brought up. One, this workers' comp payout. So this is a little over $500,000, I believe. Suddenly is just a windfall to the Park District. Over the last several years, the system that the Park District has used to pay for workers' comp funding has been what they call a high-low system, where we pay more in to assure that they will continue to insure us for our claims with our workers. So suddenly, here we are at a board meeting a month or so ago, and we hear that lo and behold, we're getting $500,000 back from our workers' comp insurance carrier.
Staff explained that.
I mean, I literally am sitting there at the meeting and going, is this like the equivalent of, finding this in your pocket in the closet? I mean, I don't think we can really take credit for something that we didn't even know was coming. Am I grateful that it's there? Yes. By law, that has to go, though, to pay down our negative cash balances in our workers' comp fund. That's fantastic. I'm glad it's happening. But there's no credit to anybody on the board or our board president for that happening. It was an absolute windfall, is how it
was.
happened.
It was.
It's
That
how
was a
happened.
windfall.
And that's not good financial planning when we don't even know that that's coming. Because quite frankly, many of the decisions that we had to make in the budget the year before didn't account for that money being there. So when people come to us and they've got a great idea for a park or recreational opportunity, or they're just showing us pictures of our bathrooms, of our facilities that need help, or just asking for things as simple as lockers, or a bigger purchase, a Zamboni for the Nelson Center that was needed for the actual, it's the ice machine that scoops up the ice, that's actually needed to run the Nelson Center. These are purchases that we could have been looking at had we known the full financial picture that we were in. And I definitely differ that negative cash balances are just a bookkeeping measure. They are negative cash balances because we're carrying them, and they have to be paid off. And they are there because of the overexpansion of the Park District. We've added, and haven't subtracted anything. And in the meantime, in having such a low tax rate, we haven't increased our revenue stream. So that's not sustainable. If you think of that as you're running a household, this is like you going and buying another house, so now you've got a couple different mortgage payments, then maybe getting a vacation house in Florida. In the meantime, picking up a second mortgage on at least one of them and going and buying a boat. It's too much, and not cutting your expenses at all. And my time on the board, because of this overexpansion, I've seen the discontent of our employees. In 2010, before I was on the board, 17 of our employees had to be laid off. That ought to show you that the financial condition is not where it should be. The first couple months I was on the board, we had to take out a loan just to make payroll. So that's not a financial record that I think is solid or that we should be standing on. And I'm sure that we can do better for the taxpayers and everybody who's using our parks in Springfield.
Where would you make cutbacks? It sounds like you're saying you do feel cutbacks are needed.
I think that we
Still.
need to take a very serious look at everything we've got. In 2002, I believe it was, the city and the park district merged together. This park district then acquired a lot more properties and the tax levy came along with that also. But we have a lot of things. We have a zoo, we have 2 ice rinks, we have an indoor pool, we have outdoor pools, we have 4 golf courses. It's a lot for people to maintain. Our zoo has been a special interest of mine, really needs work, has been neglected for years. Maybe some of you have been out there recently or taken your kids out. We certainly, as a board and a district, have tried to make improvements there. But again, in my time on the board, there was a major issue with the zoo even maybe being able to make accreditation and continue to function. And I'd like to see us go way beyond just worrying about accreditation. I want to see this be a fantastic and interactive experience for people in Springfield. So much potential out there. So many cool things we could do. You know, I asked for a small zoo planner to come and sit down and meet with us. And as a matter of fact, Leslie and I did that together. And we sat down with this small zoo planner, had a couple meetings. She had more meetings with staff. And they started to maybe flesh out a plan for something we could do on a new penguin exhibit. But we don't have any money for it. And we don't have any, and you know, before you say it, Leslie, we can't ask for a grant from the state right now. And that's not because of the governor's decision right now. That's because the park district is currently banned from getting a grant from DNR. Because in 2010, before I was on the board, the park district agreed to a grant for the Barker Park area, and in 2014 had to ask for that grant to be returned to the state of Illinois because the park district did not have the money to match the grants. And the ramification of that was that the park district was banned for 2 years from asking for grant money from the state of Illinois.
Which actually turned out to be a good thing, because right now, had we been in the middle of one of those grants, we wouldn't be getting the money.
So look,
But I'd like to answer some of the things.
No,
I'd like to-
$500,000.
Well, let me address some of this. The $500,000 is through our insurance agent. It's the way the system is set up for insurance. They called us a couple of months ago and said because of the high-low system, which is how it works, that we had overpaid into the system and that they were going to write us a check to refund that money. You know, I think staff handled it as beautifully. We constantly look at our insurance rates. This is how the system is handled. Is it a windfall? Sure it is. Could you have budgeted for it? I just don't think you could have.
It's a one-time resource, what did you use it for?
It will go back into our, as Robin said, it will go back into just our general bank account.
It's
And-
a one-time resource.
Yes, of course, right.
It
And,
actually can't go back into our general bank account.
well, it'll go to pay down,
Yeah,
it'll go
Yeah,
back
I mean, just to be clear,
to pay
at least-
workman's comp costs. That's what we'll use it for.
Makes sense.
Thank you. As far as some of the things we've done over the last 5 years, we put a new procedure manual in place, and that was started even before Robin got on the board. We have increased revenues, certainly increased our fees. It's a balance always. When you raise fees, you try to raise them some. We've done it every single year for the past 4 years. A couple of years ago, we did a full analysis of all of our programs, what other park districts were charging for similar kinds of programs, and we tried to bring those in line. But you always want to make sure that you don't raise fees so much that people then can't access your public facilities. That's why we get tax money, to help underwrite that. Also, so we did make an attempt to increase our revenues, but it was also during a time where we had a recession. I mean, let's face it, we had a recession. And yes, we had gone through a period of growth. Times were good, And the community came forward and said, we would like to see some of these things happen. And the Park District did what park districts are supposed to do. Be responsive to what people would like to see and have as available to them in the community. So, almost predominantly through partnerships. Look at the Sangamon Valley Trail. It's a 7-mile trail. The grant to acquire the abandoned railway line came from DNR. Then Sangamon County did all the engineering and got the federal money to actually build the trail, and now we operate it. This is how we've done so much in the Park District over the last 10 years especially. Most everything we've done has been some kind of partnership. If you look at Southwind Park, for example, it's a great example. You had the labor unions donate a great deal of the labor. You had the community come out and make wonderful donations to get certain things done. The Rotary Club donated that beautiful sundial. Kiwanis Club donated some playground equipment. We really did so much of Southwind as a partnership at different levels of the community, including grants. Robin referenced the Barker Park grant. Let me speak to that just for a moment, if I might. So we did apply for a grant for Barker Park. And it was at the very end of the good times before the recession hit, and we realized that that first of all the neighborhood association came to us and said, there's this huge water element in this design, and we really have given it some thought, and we'd prefer not to have a water element. So we went back to DNR and said, we would like to change the design. And they said, you can't, right? You got the grant based on this. This was 70% of the scoring or something of that nature. We also realized that in these tight financial times, that probably wasn't the most responsible use of our funding was to try to put forward the money for the grant, because the OSLAD grants, you have to put the money forward and then you get reimbursed. So we sat down with the neighborhood association, Derek Harms and I did, over a period of, 3 or 4 months. We met about every other Saturday for a couple of hours, and we talked to the neighborhood association. We said, okay, so we can't do this, right? Let's figure out what we can do. And we worked out a plan with them. And actually, we just completed, we're going to probably cut the ribbon in the next couple of weeks when the weather turns nice. We just completed phase 1 of Barker Park. So there is, we put in a little parking lot and some beautiful trees and some grass, and we have more to do. We'd like to build a shelter out there, maybe put in some playground equipment, but we're in constant communication with them. And I really think that that's my leadership style. My leadership style is to listen to the community, to be collaborative, to work with people, to try to make positive things happen. And I think we've made so many positive things happen in this community. When I started thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, we did that too. And we have improved some of our existing facilities. Do we have more work to do? Of course we do. That's why it's in the master plan. And that was a board action. The board came together with staff, and we met over 3 different sessions. I think they were each 3 or 4 hours long. And we had a collaborative discussion with staff about what needs to happen next. And we've been working on that. The very Zamboni that Robin referenced is on order. Now, granted, it takes a little bit to order Zambonis. We're doing it through this special purchase program. But we knew we needed a new Zamboni, so we planned for it. And I think that is how we will continue to proceed. We will look at things. There's going to be an emphasis on existing facility, customer service. We want to be more responsive, better technology for customer service. There are all sorts of things that are on our plate, but there are always lots of things on your plate. That's the challenge. That's the fun. You don't get easy, right? Life doesn't give you easy, but it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it. You plan, you listen, you collaborate, you work together, and at the end of the day, you get a park district system that is responsive to the needs of the community, that provides a wonderful place for families to play and to recreate together, and you hopefully have new things as well. As to the zoo, and Robin referenced the zoo, and I know Robin and I both care about the zoo tremendously. We just got a few years ago, it was more than $300,000 grant to update all the pathways at the zoo. We've redone the signage, we put in a new exhibit. Again, collaboratively, we've done lots of things with the Zoo Society. We have a master plan for the zoo. We're getting a master plan for the penguin exhibit, as Robin said. She and I talked with staff about bringing in a special small zoo designer from St. Louis, something new we hadn't done before. And we started pennies for penguins to help the community get excited about building a new penguin exhibit. We're gonna phase it in. We do actually have money. We have about $175,000 already set aside in 2 different bond issues to begin the process of rebuilding the penguin exhibit, which is why we're gonna phase it in. We want a big vision. We're gonna have great drawings. We're gonna go out to the community, hopefully raise some private money, and also start the necessary work of replacing one of the functional houses in the corner. But you do it as part of a bigger vision. And that's what I've always tried to do. Look ahead, see what we need, start planning for it.
Can we go back to workers' comp?
Of course,
Why is there a negative cash?
because,
You pay high and you get refunds.
Yeah.
Why do you have that?
well, we had a lot of workers' comp claims for a little bit of time. We instituted a program of training and of safety, and it brought down those claims significantly. And so, based on a high-low, which is something that Robin referenced, we had basically overpaid. They didn't need all that money, so we got a cash refund. It's no different than if you're supposed to pay in for something.
Yeah, I asked about the negative cash
Yeah.
balance, so how much do you still owe?
We owe the negative balance. We don't owe anybody anything, by the way. We pay our bills. It's just it's, as I said, and I know Robin disagrees, but it's primarily bookkeeping. We paid it, we paid the insurance, we pay whatever we're supposed to
Borrowed
pay.
it from another fund?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
so what did you borrow?
Okay, so left remaining is, I believe it's just about $200,000. Projected, wrong sheet, sorry. Right now, workman's comp is projected to end the year at a negative of 186,000. It was, which is less than about $50,000, $40,000 less than that's the balance. The balance was 224. So it was projected to end the year at 778,398, and we're projected now to end the year at 186.
Is there a better way to do that? I mean, is there another way to fund your workman's comp?
Well, we levy for it. So it's part of our overall levy. So we're adjusting the overall levy for this coming year. We're trying to account for that, for the proper costs. It's always an adjustment. You try to look at what you think your responsibility is going to be, and if you can't, if it's more, then we transfer in so that we can cover it, and if it's less, you can transfer out.
So this high-low system is the
Yeah,
generally
it's,
accepted way
yes,
to
it
deal with
is.
this.
Yes.
Do you agree with?
I think,
You heard of other ways to do it?
well,
Do you have a different way?
I wouldn't say that really. I think there's a better way for us to do all of our finances. I think this conversation's confusing. These financial conversations we have at the board level are confusing, and I'll continue to emphasize, I think it's really hard for us to explain that to the public. And I think it's interesting too, a lot of the things that we talk about, we end up quibbling over what board meeting it was said at and who said what. Well, we really could very easily solve that problem by recording these meetings. I don't know why that hasn't happened, and I don't know why it hasn't happened in the time that my opponent has been president of the board. However, it needs to happen now. I mean, it's clear to me that the technology that's out there now, we don't need a big technological upgrade and infrastructure for this. And then people can go back and see in the proverbial, how the sausage was made at the sausage factory, and we can all answer for the decisions that we made. That grant for Barker Park was asked for in 2010. That was way after the recession. We do have a
There was
tax
a-
levy.
There was a ripple effect from the recession because the levy is set the year before based on CPI. And
Okay.
so it was a ripple effect. In fact, and I apologize, I don't know exactly what year it was, but sometime in the last couple of years, we got it was like 0.001 more. It ended up being somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 on, at that time, I think around a $12.2 million operating budget. As to the issue with tax rates, we operate at a fraction of the tax rate of Decatur, of Peoria, of Rockford. In fact, Decatur's tax rate is more than double Springfield's tax rate.
And you can tell the difference when you go to their facilities.
I disagree. I think we have beautiful parks. I really do. If you walk through, I just did a tour of at least 15 of our parks. And I have to tell you, they're clean, they are safe, they're beautiful new trees planted everywhere. I have to tell you, I look around at our facilities and I'm proud of our parks. I think we have a great tradition of parks in this community. I feel a great responsibility to that tradition. Are there ways we can improve? Of course we can always find ways to improve. But we're trying to do the best we can, and I think we do a great job. And by the way, my kudos to our staff. Robin brought up our staff, but my kudos to our staff. We say this all the time. They work really hard, and you can see it. They are passionate. We have incredible longevity of people who work for the Park District. They come in and they stay. We do a little, you've been here 15 years, congratulations, kind of, right, things that we sign. We regularly sign things things for people who have been here for 15, 20, 30 years. And I think that's a testament to the atmosphere, and I think it's a testament, and you can see it out in our beautiful parks. People care.
I appreciate our staff too, but also in the time that my opponent has been president of the Springfield Park Board, we had a very visible scandal involving vacation payouts. And that's because, quite frankly, there was no policy in place to stop it from happening. And we had an executive director who was forced to resign over that and giving himself cash advances from Park District taxpayer money. This is not good financial management. I said that when I ran in 2012, 2013, and I'm saying it now. And in
In response to that, the forensic audit said, we caught that at the very earliest possible time that we could catch it. So what he was doing, he did through payroll, which is not a check that anybody on the board signs, right? We have a company that does payroll for us. And we, since then, have instituted a whistleblower policy. We have instituted a whole new policy manual. It's about that thick. We had one, but we updated it. And I believe that we've protected people, and the forensic audit said we got back every single dollar that was due to the district. And I'm very proud of that. And let me reiterate, then we had an audit that was finished this October that basically said we had done an excellent job of addressing every issue they had previously raised, and that they had never seen such a fast turnaround of any municipality with a challenging audit. Oh my goodness, I thought that was, I was thrilled with that.
Could
So
you
what's the
remind
plan?
everyone what the
Go ahead.
issue was with that? How did that happen? How was someone able?
Yeah, and the other problem was, he basically was signing himself advances. That was the fundamental issue.
And why wasn't that a policy to begin with?
Well,
seems like a
it
basic-
certainly was violation of what he was supposed to be doing. We just didn't know about it because it went through the payroll, the company that.
there was not any
There-
policy in place for that.
Yeah, there's a policy, of course there was a policy in place. There wasn't the vacation policy was different and we changed it. So that was policy that you could get a payout for your vacation time. We did change that in the new policy manual, which we adopted about 2 years ago.
I don't think there was any policy on getting yourself a cash advance
No,
on your
of course
paycheck
not,
because
but-
it was so
but
ludicrous, maybe
there
no
was
one
no
thought there
policy.
needed to be one.
Of
but-
course, there was no policy on that, but however, we caught it. He was violating certainly the, if not policy, the trust. We caught it according to the forensic audit. We caught it as soon as we were absolutely able to catch it. And the minute we caught it, we froze everything. So, I mean, we took, as I said, nobody gets perfect. I mean, who gets perfect? But leadership is about taking a difficult situation and not casting blame and not casting, negativity. Leadership is about taking a situation and figuring out what needs to be done, and then trying to prevent that situation from happening in the future. I did that. The board did that. I'm proud of the board. We had to put in a lot of time and hours. Tina Genazzo and I put in literally, oh my gosh, hundreds of hours into making sure that A, we got it all, B, that it never happened again. So I'm proud of that. I think that, look, at the end of the day, you have to be positive, you have to be collaborative, you have to look at the things that are possible and say, what can we do? How do we do it? What is this problem? How do we correct it? How do we make sure that problem doesn't happen again? Because problems happen, and you have to be calm, and you have to look through the situation, you have to be able to analyze it and take care of it and prevent it in the future. But you also, we've dwelled on the negative here. There is so much positive. People love the parks in Springfield. I hear time and time again what an amazing asset they are. We rebuilt the tennis pavilion. We've just everywhere across the district, we've done something to make it positive for the residents. The bike and hike trails, when I first started on the board, we didn't have any, right? Now we've got Sangamon Valley and Lost Bridge and the Interurban Trail and the Wabash Trail. I'm proud of that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, but we do have a lot of facilities, you're right.
I'm
I
sorry.
wanna talk about the fees again too.
Okay.
I wanna make sure that, you said the fees have been adjusted each
Mhm.
year for the last 4 years. Do you think the fees
3 or 4
and
years.
the tax rate, tax levy, whatever, is where it ought to be?
Well,
did you make
they're two
adjustments to
different,
the finance? Yes.
yeah, they're really two different issues. It's
Something
kind of
about
apples and oranges, but on the fees, I think we've raised them just as high as they can be raised.
I agree with that.
People are already paying taxes to use our Springfield parks and our facilities, and some user fees are certainly reasonable. We definitely don't want to see any decrease in our revenue stream because it hasn't been increased. I think at this point in time, I'm very positive about the outlook of our Springfield parks too. I love being on the park board. I would love to be park board president. I love talking to people about parks. I'm very responsive to people about our park district. I respond to Facebook messages, emails, people send me text messages all week. I'd like to make that communication even bigger and maybe have an app in place so when someone's walking in the park, they can send us a picture and say, hey, guess what? And this is literally what people call about a lot. There's no soap and there's no toilet paper in the bathroom, and I'm walking in Lincoln Park or Washington Park. As far as an increase in our tax levy, which really, let's just say what it would come down to then. That means that we're going to the public and we're saying we want to increase your real estate property taxes. I don't think we're in any position to be asking the public for any more money right now. Because the public is overtaxed as it is, but.
So what's an example of a user fee other than the golf?
Say like at the Nelson Center, if your kid's in youth hockey,
Right.
or
Adult lap swim at Eisenhower Pool, that kind of thing.
figure skating at the Nelson Center.
Entry into the zoo.
Yeah, entry into the zoo.
What's the history, of separately elected board president? That just seems to me to be very
Well-
important that I don't
Yeah.
elect someone president and go on.
That's the most common question I've gotten since I've started this.
Well, actually, it's interesting how that evolved. Springfield,
Is that a unique Springfield deal?
actually, there are about a handful of these. We are actually a park district and pleasure driveway. And what that means is we were founded in 1901, and it was, Peoria is also a pleasure driveway. And so the initial park districts that were founded operate under slightly different rules. We have 7 trustees instead of 5, and the park board president runs at large. For every other park district in the state, other than this handful, they have 5 trustees and they elect their own president.
So there are really 8 members of the park board?
7,
7,
6 trustees and a president.
correct.
Yes, sir.
And that's your understanding too?
Oh, yes. I look at it as there's a commissioner and a non-commissioner based type of districts. Because we all run at large and we're not split into districts or wards, this is the way the system is set up. My short answer to people is that we clearly just like to have more elected offices in Springfield because
Oh, yeah.
it's Springfield.
Right.
But
So does that legislation define the role kind of differently than a board president normally would be? Or how does that work?
There are some set legislative roles for the president. I'm not sure that they're separate from other park districts, just regular park districts and not pleasure driveways.
I see the role as president in probably either one of those systems as just being a person who should be providing some vision, guidance, and leadership for the board. I think for too many years, the board has kind of become a rubber stamp for our upper management and staff. And we need to be a check and balance. We are all, whether it be president or board trustee, elected by the public to provide that check and balance.
But I think the role of the board is really an important conversation here, because the role of the board is to set the long-range plan, to set the annual budget, to set policy. We're not supposed to micromanage our staff. You hire an executive director, which we did, and that person is supposed to run the day-to-day operations of the district. You know, we are supposed to look forward and say, what needs to happen in the park district? How do we make it better? How do we make it stronger? What does the community expect from the district?
So on that point, what's in your long-range plan for millennials and downtown dwellers?
Oh, that's a great point. One of the ideas that I have is to, and I've actually started doing this, is to get, I just talked to both mayoral candidates about this. What we really need to do is create a roundtable. I am the parent of 3 millennials. And I've open conversation with them and their friends. Just 2 days ago, one of them said to me, you know, what we really need are more activities downtown, especially during the winter. Places we can go, you know, there's no movie theater, there's no bowling alley.
There's no ice skating.
There's, that is true.
That's
Right.
because the
That's-
park district has the ice rink and it's out in storage broken and we can't afford to fix it.
Well,
Out at the Nelson Center.
we got that.
Just so you know.
The city bought it. The city bought the ice rink. And when we did the merger, they transferred the ice rink to us, but it was missing several very expensive components. And, you know, it was going to be a significant cost to the district, not just to buy the pieces. We ran all the numbers. Believe me, I wanted the ice rink downtown. I thought that was a great idea. But between what we thought we could rent skates for and staffing costs, we ran the numbers 4 different times.
So what is in the long-range plan
For-
millennials?
Right now,
Downtown
right now, we have, where we are with our long-range plan is we have 5 big concepts. One of them is programming. Staff has broken into teams to have those very conversations on what we can do, and that I know is going to be part of that conversation with staff and then with the board, and I would recommend a roundtable with millennials to find out what they want.
So you're just at the inception?
We are, absolutely. And it'll probably be, my guess is, we had our executive director lay out a process for us, and we should have final details somewhere in the next 4 months or so, 5 months. He's going to involve the board. He has staff working on this now. Then the board will weigh in, and then we'll finalize the details of the plan. But what we have finished right now are the big concepts of what do we need to work on. And we had somebody come in from the U of I to talk to us about that and lead us through that process.
I was present for all the long-range planning sessions, and I kind of was a little hesitant about the process to start with. And I really came around to it after we had that experience. And it was a lot of time and a lot of hours that we put into that. However, there were priorities that were identified for the Park District that were a part of that process. And I really do not recall any conversation whatsoever about millennials and downtown. I'm not really even sure what land we own downtown that we would have any direct impact with. I would certainly be open to exploring it further and maybe trying to connect some walking trails to Enos and Garmin Parks.
What about the railroad right away? Assuming a relocation, are you involved in any discussions of making that a hiking trail or a biking?
That hasn't started yet, but
I've heard a couple people bring that up.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's come up, and certainly we've always been open to collaborative efforts. You know, one of the things I'd like to do is sit down with whomever becomes mayor and develop a closer working relationship with the city. We have a good working relationship with the city, but I always think it can be better. And I do think that there's room for improvement with the Park District. Perhaps we can help provide some of the programming into, say, the park out by the Lincoln Museum and Library. I mean, there are things we can do, and you know, we need to just talk and see what, you know, start planning for those kinds of things. But I'll tell you what, having 3 20-somethings, I hear a lot about what we need, and downtown is certainly part of that.
We have one more issue we really ought to cover before we run out of time.
Okay.
And that's the Park District Police.
Mhm.
It seems like there's a lot going on out there right now. Do you think the Park District should still have its own police department? Yes or no, why or why not?
Well, I have always been an advocate for having our own police department. I've been consistent in that for years. We have periodically had a conversation. Do we still need one? I think it comes up every 3 or 4 years for conversation for a variety of reasons. I've always come down on the side of that we should, because I like the idea that we have a problem in Geedle, we have a problem in Enos or at Riverside, and we can send somebody out there, right? We can just call up our staff and say, look, you know, we're having a problem. It tends to be around 8 o'clock at night. For the next week or two, could you just make sure you're out there to see what's going on? I think that we have some issues, as you guys have written about right now. I'm certainly always, as I have been my entire tenure on the board, I'm always open to conversations about, can we do it better? And I think certainly we need to get through where we are right now. But once we are through where we are right now, I've already talked to Peter Murphy at the Illinois Association of Park Districts about this and said, you know, I'd really like to bring in somebody who is an expert in Park District police and tell us if there's a way. Analyze what we've done, analyze where we are, and tell us, is there a modified system perhaps to make it better, right? So maybe we use a combination of full-time and part-time, or part-time and rangers. I'm not going to pre-assume what the exact right answer is, but I'd like to bring in an expert to help us walk through it, look at where we are, and make some recommendations based on what other, you know, sort of best practices are around the state.
Well, this is new coming from our board president, because this is something I've been advocating for over a year.
I said it.
Well, I disagree, but I think this is something that she and I have been on opposite positions on. I will say this, I completely agree that we need a better collaborative agreement with the city. And this is one area we could definitely be looking at collaborating with the city on. Not every park district in the state, in fact, most of them, do not have the luxury of having their own police department. And at this point, this is part of what I'm talking about with the cost-benefit analysis for all the assets, liabilities, parks and facilities, and programming, quite frankly, that the park district has, and taking a hard look at it. But no matter what, that's going to take a vote of the full board. But, you know, my idea is that we lay all our cards out on the table, that we do have some law enforcement people come in with us, either in the form of a committee to come in and say what their recommendations are. Safety there's no bigger priority than safety. Who's gonna take their kid to the park if they don't feel it's safe for them to walk, jog, be in the playground, go in the bathroom? Part of safety is our maintenance issues, and another big part of safety is whether or not people feel like that their personal selves and property are gonna be protected in those parks. So no matter what we do, we can't forget that, because, if people aren't gonna go to our parks, then we've really failed as a park district. Having said that, in terms of a collaborative agreement with the city, what I'd really like to talk to the city about is what we could do, whether we have our own park police department or not, what we could do in combination with their neighborhood police officers. They're already there. I mean, I love the neighborhood police officer program, and I hope that the Springfield Police continue to expand that. We need to get back to this concept of the officer, if it's on the street, who's out literally, talking to the residents and knows people who live there. So if that infrastructure is in place, I think that's something that we need to consider. There won't be one person, whether it's the board president or one trustee, that makes that decision on the park police, and it will be very, very carefully scrutinized and analyzed.
I think I'm unclear on where you are. Are you in favor of keeping it or getting away from having the park police?
I'm in
People are
favor of us.
studying it.
I'm in favor of us studying what to do with the park police right now. I am not at all happy with our current situation with the park police. For more than a month now, we've had our park police chief or captain on suspension, paid suspension. So we're paying him to sit home right now, watch TV, do whatever he wants to, and we're paying him more than $70,000 a year. So I'm definitely not in favor of our current system and our current situation.
But that really goes to the leadership question. We needed to make sure that we brought in an outside counsel to look at this situation. Labor Council made a strong recommendation that we put them on paid leave, and so we staff followed that recommendation. This is a staff issue. Nobody is happy when you have, a difficult staffing issue. But you follow legal counsel, and we brought in an outside entity to take a fair look at this. This is about being objective and fair and proceeding accordingly. So I think we've done that. So
If you decide that you want to keep the police department, what would either you do to try and retain officers so you don't have this constant turnaround and 8 officers this year, 4 officers next year?
That's not retaining. That was a budget issue. And when they left, they weren't replaced. And
That's right.
so that makes me question the value of what we have right now if we were able to go from 8 officers to 3 and still be functioning. That makes me think there may be other ways we could be doing this, and they also need to be managed and supervised better.
Well, I absolutely think that our parks are safe and great places to be. I think that we have had 8 officers, and now we're at 4. Staff is very comfortable with where we are at this moment in time. We are looking at perhaps, taking on a part-time person for the heavy months. It's always a matter of juggling heavy use times for the park district. Certainly March through about the end of October, early November, we get a little more quiet. So we're
That wasn't
constantly,
a board decision either.
no, it was a staff decision.
So we just
But
got an
it's
email
also-
that told us they're going to hire some part-time officers.
But this goes to hiring an excellent, qualified executive director and having the board and letting them do the day-to-day operations of the district. One of them is setting staffing levels, and the board setting broader vision and policy. I think that's a very important distinction.